Hello, my name is Robert Russoniello. I'm a senior consultant with SWK, and today we're going to be going through a demonstration of the Visual Integrator module in Sage, a very powerful module that allows you the ability to import and export data from any module within Sage. Now, I like to think that this module is very useful for anyone who has any data entry. It could be a journal entry, it could be entering invoices, it could be uploading items. Anything that takes over a few minutes of time and tends to be repetitive is certainly a good candidate for uploading that information from an Excel file, from a text file, or from another system. So we're going to be going through some of the benefits and features of this module, some of the different databases and files that you can use to connect to this module, as well as we're going to go through a couple of live demonstrations of creating a few jobs that will give you the ability to upload invoices into accounts payable, as well as take a look at how we can update items within the system fairly quickly. With that said, let's take a look at some of the benefits of this module. So you can easily import and export from a custom or vertical software package. Essentially, any database that you have can connect to Sage and upload through the Visual Integrator module. In today's session, we're going to be looking at actually pulling information from a couple of Excel files, but we can actually connect information to an outside database or an external software package. This module does maintain data integrity between programs. It does allow us to bring information into the system and retain data integrity by not just blindly passing bad data. It will actually look at the data file structure within the system and ensure that we're not bringing in bad data. We can also use validation logic to ensure the import conforms to your established business rules. So we can conform these jobs to only bring in information that we intend to, and much like our prior point, keeping data integrity, we can certainly ensure that only good data gets into our system and any bad data essentially gets filtered out. We can schedule functions for regular or repetitive imports. With the more recent software releases, we can schedule these jobs at any point in time, either every minute, every 5 minutes, every hour, once a day. So we do have the ability within the application to schedule these imports at different intervals. We can efficiently use easy point and click data selection. So you're going to see when we create these jobs, once you understand how to create them, it's very easy to put them in use. So the user interface for this module, much like all of the other modules in Sage, very easy to understand and get going with it. Finally, select from user-defined fields that appear automatically. You can now, with every table, if it's customer maintenance or item maintenance, any user-defined field that's created within the system is now available to be utilized both from an import or export capability. In terms of connecting the Sage 100 system to any outside system, we can now import or export directly from Access, from Excel, from SQL Server, from a text file or CSV file. So you'll see today we're going to be using a few examples of creating some import files from Microsoft Excel, and we'll be having Visual Integrator connect directly to that Excel spreadsheet to pull information from. And finally, some features that for those of you who have used the VI module to upload or export information that you may not be aware of, scheduling. So jobs can be run using Task Scheduler within Sage. This came out just a few versions ago, where in the past we would have to use Windows Task Scheduler to configure the jobs and have them run at different intervals. We now can do that within the application called Task Scheduler in the Library Master module. The chaining of jobs can be set to run in sequence. For example, if we're uploading invoices, we can actually create a job that creates the customers first in customer maintenance, and then concludes with creating a job that uploads invoices into AR or SO, invoice data entry. So we can create a multitude of jobs that upload into different parts of the system, and we can have them run one after the other to ensure data integrity. Security, we'll take a look at this as well today. Jobs can be isolated by task and displayed on the menu, so that if we have a job that uploads into general journal entry and we want to be sure that only our general ledger team has access to run this job, we can isolate this job and put it as a task on the menu and only give the appropriate security to users to be able to run this task. And finally, there is a test and preview button. When we're running the job, we have the ability to test the job out before we go through the process of going through a live update. So it's certainly helpful, and as I go through our examples, we're going to certainly test our jobs to make sure that the jobs are set appropriately and that we're bringing in good information into the system. With that said, we're now going to jump into the system and we're going to take a look at two different demonstrations. One, we're going to upload a vendor price list. You may get a price list from vendors on a recurring basis. It could be quarterly, it could be annual. This is certainly helpful when you're creating POs in the system and you want the purchase order for a particular vendor/item to have a specific price and not just use the average price in the system. So we're going to upload into the vendor price level maintenance portion of item maintenance, and we'll go through that in detail in just a minute. The second demonstration we're going to be doing is uploading AP invoices. So we're going to take a look at how we can upload 6, 7, 8 different invoices from Excel into invoice data entry. So if you have situations where you have vendors who send you invoices electronically via text file, via Excel, we can actually take that information and upload it directly into invoice data entry, saving certainly time it takes to key them in. We're now going to jump into the system and take a look at these two demonstrations within VI. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with our first job, which is going to be uploading information into the vendor price level table. Just to give you a frame of reference, this information can be found that we're going to be bringing in item maintenance under the vendors button in the vendor price level maintenance table. So we're going to be bringing in standard costs for all of the items in our source file. Let's take a look at our source file, which has all of our vendors' standard costs. So our source file is pretty simple. It has our vendor information, it has our item information, and it has our standard cost. So these are all the components we need to upload information into our file. So let's get going with creating our first job. We're going to go into the Visual Integrator module. We're going to go to import job maintenance. I am going to give this job a name. I'm going to call it vendor price. And the table name, I do know what table this is. This is a PO vendor price level table. If you're unsure, you can always ask an SWK consultant. We'd be happy to tell you which table you need to import this information into. And this is a new job. And I am going to give this a name, upload vendor price level data. And the file type, there's a multitude of file types we discussed earlier on. This file type that we're using is going to be an XLSX file. And I'm going to go ahead and point to it now. So I do know that this file resides on my desktop, and it is called this name. And that's all we need to be concerned with in tab number 1. Tab number 2 is really the meat of creating this job. On the left-hand side are all the fields in the vendor price level table. The right-hand side are all the fields that we're going to be using for this job. The blue elements are fields that are required for the job to work. The other ones are optional but important. The non-colored ones are essentially optional. They don't need to be in your job for your job to work. So let's take a look at our source file and let's start mapping our job to work. So our division is going to be a replace operand. Replace says go to the source file and find the information there. So we're going to find it in column 1, and we're going to find it in position 1. That is our division number. In position 1, length of 2. So the 01 is our division number portion of that field. Our vendor number portion starts in position number 4. So we're going to use a replace function again. It's going to be column 1 of our source file, and it's going to be position number 4 that we begin with. And the length of this file is going to be, or the length of this field is going to be 7. So we're going to start at position 4. We're going to count 7 spots, and that's where we're going to find our vendor number. Now, if we keep pushing forward, our pricing type, this time we're going to use an operand called assign. Assign says, don't go to the file for the information. We're going to assign every record an I. Again, I understand what needs to get populated in this table. So you may need our help initially with creating some of these. But pricing method, again, I know I'm going to assign it, and I'm going to make every record an S for standard cost. Now, there's a couple of things missing. I have my item in column B, so I'm going to bring over my item code, and I'm going to go ahead and put my item code just above my pricing method, and I'm going to say find the item code using the replace function in column 2. And I just have a few more things. Break quantity. This is saying what's the maximum number that our vendor is going to give us a price break on, and it can be up to 8. We're essentially saying every amount that we bring over in a PO is going to have a standard cost. So our pricing is not going to change due to quantity breaks for this vendor. And finally, our discount markup. This is column number 3 of our source file. So this is going to be the standard cost of the item. So I'm going to do a replace. I'm going to do a 3. And we are set. Our job is now ready to go. So I'm going to hit accept. I'm going to hit no to execute the job, and I'm going to close a file. Visual Integrator does not like our source file to be open. I am going to now go to job select. I'm going to select our job that we just created. I always like to test our job, and I'm going to test all records to make sure there isn't anything funny going on with our source file. And we see that out of 39 records, 38 were uploaded. I do have 1 failed record. Normally we want to see this at 0. That means something in our job or file is incorrect. If I go to my source file, I see in Row 35, it does not like something about my file. So I'm going to go back to my source file, and if I open it up and I scroll down, I notice I have a bad record. So I am going to remove it. So testing allows us to see that information and be sure that we don't upload any bad information into our system. So now we have 0 failed records. This time I'm going to bring it in. And if I go to inventory, and let me go ahead and pull up our source file once more. And let's look at our last record here for item WJM. Let's go to item maintenance. And let's pull up our last record and our vendors tab, and we have vendor price level maintenance. We now see that for this vendor, this item code, we now have a standard cost of $52.25 for this vendor. If we create a PO, it will default to this number every time. So you can see how we can do this manually for all 38 records, but if we have that information in Excel, we're able to expedite that process through Visual Integrator by creating the job, and that job is now available going forward. Okay, let's move on to our second job, which is going to be uploading information into AP invoice data entry. Now you may have a vendor that gives you a multitude of invoices through an upload file, or you may decide to create a template like I've just did, where I can enter in a multitude of invoices into Excel, and we're going to upload this into AP invoice entry. You can see where we have our vendor information, our invoice number, our invoice date, and our line information. So let's jump back into Visual Integrator, import job maintenance, and let's start the process. We're going to first give this a name. We're going to call this AP invoice entry. And I know that this is going to go into the AP invoice header table. And we're going to be prompted that this is a new job, and we're going to give this a description. And for file type, it's again going to be an SLX file, and I'm going to go ahead and point to it. And the file name is AP invoice upload, and we're going to go to tab number 2. Left-hand side, all the fields that go into AP invoice entry, you're going to notice an H and an L. The H signifies header, the L signifies line. This is similar if you're entering in an invoice and invoice data entry. You have a header tab and a lines tab. So that's just a way to designate whether it's on the header tab of invoice entry or the line tab. So let's go ahead and open up our file once again, and let's start taking a look at this field by field. So our division number is going to still be a replace, and it's going to be in column 1. Now, in this job, we've created our division field as an entirely separate field from our vendor number, which is in column B. So I don't have to do anything with our substring. We're just going to say find the division in vendor in column 1 of our file. Same thing with vendor number. In this case, it's going to be found as a replace function in column 2, all by itself. And invoice number is entirely in column number 3 of Excel, so it happens to be already defined for us. We don't have to do anything. And I'm going to go down the line invoice date. We're going to go ahead and pull that over. That's going to be in column 4. And I also did add a column for holding invoices. This is not required, but we may have a need for this vendor. We're having collection problems with them, so when we bring it in, we're going to want to be sure that we put the invoice on hold. So I'm going to go to my hold payment, and I'm going to say go ahead, and I don't want to assign it. Sometimes when you create VI jobs, it pre-populates or defaults the operand. In this case, I'm going to do a replace, and I'm going to replace it with column 5. And I'll take our default value out. That's all. In fact, actually, let's do one more thing. I'm going to bring in over a header comment. And in this case, I'm going to do something we haven't done before, is use a runtime assign. And what runtime assign allows us to do is when we create, or when we run our job, we go ahead and give the user a parameter for this field when they populate it. So this is a runtime assign. The prompt is going to say enter header comment. And we're going to continue. I don't have anything else on the header side that I'm interested in. On the lines tab, we do have account key. This is our GL account number. And this is actually going to be in column F, which is equivalent to column number 6. And I've got just a few more fields. Column number 7, which is the amount, is going to be the distribution amount. Pre-populates it with the next number, 7, so I don't even have to go in this area to change it. And finally, the line posting comment, the very last column, column H, is going to be the line comment text, and that's in column 8 or column H. Now, I'm going to also show you one more thing I'm going to do to my job, and that is I don't want it to bring over the header row and end up failing it because this doesn't meet the requirements of the system. So I'm going to go all the way over to my records tab, and I'm going to say skip column 1 if column 1 positions 1 through 5 equals AP div. So this is saying as you're reading all the rows of the job, go ahead and skip it if column 1 has AP div in it. All of the other rows are essentially going to have a number, so we should be okay with this logic. I'm going to hit accept, and I'm going to not execute. We're going to go back in. We're going to go to job select, and I'm now going to find my AP invoice entry. And if you remember, we have a runtime field for our header comment. So I'm just going to type in header comment. I'm going to test it. I'm going to test all records once again. And it skipped our first record because we told it to, which is good. And it read and imported all of the remaining items, and I do not have any failures this time. So life is good. I'm not going to view the job log, and I'm going to hit accept. This time it's going to upload it, and I'm going to hit no. And we're going to go back into AP invoice data entry. And if I pull up my flashlight, I'm going to see all of the invoices we just uploaded, which should look similar to this file here. And if I go to any one invoice, you're going to see that the comment field matches the runtime field that we gave it. And the lines tab has all of the GL account numbers and the amounts and the comments that are equivalent to what we've entered in our file. So we were able to upload a multitude of invoices using the replace function, the assign function, and a runtime assign. Oh, by the way, if we go to our invoices for all climate, and we open one of those up, we will see that the hold payment flag is selected for each of them. So it matches what we instructed the system to do all through Visual Integrator. So we've now created two jobs in our system, one for uploading invoices into invoice data entry, and another to upload vendor prices into vendor price level maintenance. These jobs will remain here and can be used over and over to essentially alleviate us from data entry. With that said, that concludes our demonstration of the Visual Integrator module. Just let us know if you have questions. Thank you.